welcome to episode 2 of the Lewisburg Neighborhoods Corporation pitch for Environmental Studies 411 in spring of 2019. I got to talk to you on Tuesday, and now indirectly I'm talking to you again. So I don't have a good way of showing you the slides. Professor Stuhl is going to share the slides with you, but I'm going to use my slide headers to keep track. This first topic is going to be imagining a future denser Lewisburg. And so what does that mean? It means trying to, the Lewisburg Neighborhood Corporation does a fair amount of planning, things that the borough doesn't really get around to, doesn't have a chance to work on. Some of those things relate to planning around current exigent issues, things like flood insurance, which one of your classmates is working on right now with me. Other things have to do with just aspirations, like to have better connections to the river. In the category of understanding the flood maps for Lewisburg, we start looking at how we have some properties that are more subject or at risk from flooding, and other areas that are somewhat less at risk. Some of the areas that are less at risk feature really underutilized sites. We actually have of the approximately 1,600 properties in the borough, 600 of them are in or touching the floodplain, the 100-year floodplain. So that's basically a third of the properties in the borough. Nevertheless, so that's a lot of properties that we need to be thinking about how to reduce their risk. There are consequences for tax base when we think about that. So one concept is to think about how could we increase the tax base still within the borough, but in less risky locations. So a lot of people talk about the borough being built out. That's the idea that there's no place to put new buildings. And it is true that it's very unusual to have someone build a new building in town. It has happened a couple times in recent years. A person has taken down a house and put a new house in its place, more flood-resistant house. That's an option. We have a couple of examples of that. It's also possible to find a few still single property infill sites available. But what we don't do is look at sites that aren't, quote, empty, like truly vacant, but rather look at sites that are underfilled. So in that case, what I'm proposing is to have a group of students work with me to identify underutilized sites. This could be anything from things like parking lots, surface parking lots that aren't in the floodplain, to sites that might be a vacant lot that's near the upper edge of the floodplain where flood-proof housing could be done. So we'd like to map those sites comprehensively and then get an estimate of how much additional square footage, how much additional small town level density we could achieve, how many more housing units or square footage. Related to that, because one of the issues when you start to add density, one of the issues that comes up is concerns about parking, where you'll put all the new residents' cars, although one of the ideas of having a future denser Lewisburg is that it would allow more people to take advantage of being in a dense location that would reduce reliance for many of the residents on motor vehicles. One of the issues is parking, though, so we would need to also compile a sort of comprehensive parking inventory. People have looked in the past at the spaces, like the metered spaces, or we've looked at some of the spaces in the North Ward neighborhood. We'd like to try to get a count of metered spaces, on-street spaces, off-street visible spaces, and also structured parking. In our case, that does not include parking garages, but it does include potential garage space, like in domestic house garages. A lot of those spaces, because parking is not at a premium in Lewisburg, are currently used for storage. And then the final piece of this puzzle would be to examine what additional parking, on-street parking options there would be if we increased the number of one-way streets with parking on both sides. Currently, for example, North 4th Street is one-way southbound and has parking on both sides. Very similar streets parallel to that are two-way with parking on one side. So clearly you have an option to increase the parking available. So that's the idea, helping us envision Lewisburg 2100, what the possibilities are to start to explain to people a different future. The slideshow that I was going to be giving this to included just the bullets and a historical map of Lewisburg explaining how it sort of started from the river and moved gradually outward from there, and then more current maps and a flood map. So that's about it for that first project. I'm going to do a cut and then we're going to do the next one.